Good morning, everybody. As Phil said, Ian Thompson from North Yorkshire Police standing in front of you today as part of the BAPCO executive to talk about a presentation on a report written by Jenny Cole. I was always told when doing these sorts of things to stand up, speak up and never apologise. I shall stand up, speak up. I'll have to apologise because they're Jenny's notes. So I would know, and I'm a wanderer, I would normally walk around, get told off for standing in front of the screen, that sort of thing. So I am speaking from Jenny's notes, so I do apologise if I'm looking down. You should never do that. The presentation itself is to cover some of the findings from the research project undertaken by RUSI on behalf of BAPCO to examine concerns amongst BAPCO membership that the replacement and evolution of the current ESN, the Emergency Service Network, will compromise essential functionality for economic efficiency. It's set out to explore what is really required for a network to be resilient, to deliver the 4 Cs of criticality, coverage, capability and capacity in terms of both technology and, for me, user expectation, as well as the expectation of the media, the public and our political masters. And also to explain the resilience that's affected by the technological and the scientific factors. Studies being made possible by support from Airwave and Celex, but not from what they've said. They've supported it, but it's an independent study. The final report will be out by the end of this month. It won't set out what ESN should or should not be, but it will show what impact the different solutions and different technological factors would have on that functionality and the resilience of that network. Now, the note that Jennifer's asked me to read out says at the bottom, this presentation has been prepared by Jenny Cole of RUSI, so please blame anything you disagree with on her and not on Ian. So a major challenge in researching the project has been the level of technical understanding that is required to fully appreciate the issues involved. RUSI's conducted 3 major studies on emergency services communications over the past 8 years. This is the first time that the issues involved have required real scientific and technical understanding. In the past, the issues were more simple, the sorts of things that I would have talked about. Does the network need to be secure? Does it need to have good geographic coverage? What it wasn't in the past was, should the network be delivered over 400 meg, 700 meg, 2.4, 3.5? That really didn't matter to me. Which of those provides the best penetration into buildings and built-up areas? Is it different in remote countryside? Which is more resilient to flooding, cyber attack? For this reason, the significant section of Jenny's report will be dedicated to explaining the science of how the mobile comms work. The intention being to provide that common understanding, so we try and get away from people saying, oh, well, it does provide X, you just don't understand, which we have had in the past. It won't be saying which technical solution is best for the job, but it'll set out the advantages and disadvantages of the different options. Secondly, the report takes a look at how technology is developed and is still developing. Of course, the simple answer is very fast. For the first time in history, a new emergency service network will be delivered that is unlikely to be significantly different from what you and I can buy now off the shelf. So, talking about that pace of technology and the needs for and the development of the ESN. Back in the 90s, when PITO, Police IT Organisation, was formed and was talking about the Public Safety Radio Communications Project, PSRCP. Anybody involved in the PSRCP requirements? Go on, answer, because it's interesting to see what was asked for then and how different that is from what's being asked for now. I was involved as well, so feel free. Back in the 90s, they were developing the specifications for the new network, and up to 2001, when the first forces piloted the network, typical mobile phones looked like something like that, and the handset they were thinking about and working towards, looked at the radio handset up there, more or less similar. So, cutting edge. Jump forward 2001, 2005, the airwave network's now rolled out nationally. Airwave handsets haven't changed very much, but we're starting to see mobile phone technology moving forward. Colour screens are starting to come in, something close to what will one day be apps are appearing, cameras are becoming more widespread and desirable, and the airwave handset is starting to look a little old-fashioned. That's in just 5 years. It looks like what it is. It looks like a radio. Compared to now, when smartphones are the norm, poor old airwave handset is decidedly old-fashioned. Doesn't impress my kids anymore at all. Looks like a mid-1990s mobile phone, which is after all what it was designed to be. Trouble with public sector procurement is that it tends to be long-term, longer than any of us would want, and certainly a lot longer than you would tie yourself into a mobile contract for with your phone. It's not very flexible. You don't get to trade your handset in every 2 to 3 years, as I'm sure most of us do, unless you're prepared to go through a huge procurement exercise and upgrade and pay an awful lot of money. The assertion is that a 20-year contract tends to set the technological specification to be what is available at the start of that contract, not for what is to come, unless you have significant costs. It's not because the technology doesn't exist. We've seen Airwave finally unveiling their smartphone last month. Things are moving on, but at the moment, that's not the handset the emergency services operate on. I don't think we're anywhere near ready to use that sort of thing. The Airwave network is, as ESN will be, just a network. It's not the handset. There's no technological reason why it can't operate over a 1990s style phone platform or a smartphone phone or platform, or even simultaneously. The important thing for us is the flexibility for the platform to change as technology changes. Public sector procurement processes have traditionally been very long, as I've said, and have moved very slowly. The military have got better at doing it as their requirements through tactical situations have moved on. They've shortened those processes, and perhaps we need to learn from that as well. So it all begs the question, what's going to be the norm in 2016 to 2020? 6 years is a very long time in mobile communications. 2020 is only 6 years away. In 2008, we didn't have apps. You couldn't like anything on Facebook. We were still 2 years away from the tablet computers. So you think about that, and then think about 6 years' time in comms technology. In 2020, the typical device might look very different. We've all heard about the possibilities of augmented reality, projection technology onto walls, windscreens, visors, glass lenses. Will it be voice activated? Or is that all just science fiction? Some of that was talked about 15, 16, 17 years ago. If you ask people to predict the future, they invariably get it wrong for a variety of reasons. What current research has shown is that one really interesting factor is how the technology available at any point in time influences people's perceptions of what technology they want and they need. Two very different questions. Having carried out the research in the comms sphere for a while, RUSI has a lot of data from those previous projects. So they went back to people who participated and responded in the previous projects and previous communications to look at what was absolutely essential in the future compared to what they think is absolutely essential now. Throws up some interesting results. 2009, RUSI asked the question, in future, how important would it be for you to be able to communicate the following information? 85% of respondents thought voice. They go back and ask the same people now, and it's gone up. Now 100% of people want voice technology. So they thought we were going to move on in a brave new world, get into situations and we still want to talk to each other. When we asked the question to the same people about video and video calling by Skype, the need for that had gone down, unless it was going to be in an emergency situation when more people thought, yeah, that's something that I might need and might be useful. Typo on here, I don't know what small is. Could be an autocorrect on email, but Phil and I have taken a guess on that. We've left that one up there. So while less than 20% of people think that live streaming is very important, just over half do think they should have access to it during a multi-agency incident. They don't think they really need it, but they want it nonetheless. Not because it's there, is that just in case? Results such as this throw up some extremely interesting questions, because to RUSI, the figures that are coming through from the data suggest the answers people give to questions are largely driven by familiarity with the technology available at the time, more than a genuine evidence-based evaluation of their utility. Example, in 2009, 40% of respondents to the survey wanted the handset they accessed the shared ESN through to be like a BlackBerry. Only 19% wanted it to be like an iPhone. The figures are pretty much reversed in 5 years. Has the functionality of the BlackBerries and iPhones changed so much in those years? Has the way the ESNs operate, or are those figures purely influenced by what people see as the typical tool at work? Is it what they want or what they need? We need to keep focused on the functionality that we need, not the single technological solution to providing that functionality. A little bit about when things go wrong and how they go wrong. It's vital to ensure that functionality is provided in the most effective and resilient way, to look not only at how comms technology works, but also the reasons why it fails. When asked the questions in the surveys, RUSI categorised failures into business as usual and in extremis. No surprises there. Failures during business as usual operations were classified as times when nothing unusual or extreme is happening. It just doesn't work. In those situations, which account for half of all comms failures that they came across in the research, comms failed the reasons were mostly due to technical upgrades or technical problems. Some were sorted out very quickly, some are longer lasting. Most were easily mitigated. Something we've done before, something we're used to doing, we understand why it goes wrong, we put something in place. We go to mobile phones instead of radios, something like that, something we're used to. The network hasn't gone away, something else needs to be there to provide the functionality in the meantime. When we turn to the other category, failures during in extremis situations, we find something very different. The main reason for network failures here, accounting for just over half of comms failures we come across in the research, is damage to the physical infrastructure, usually caused by severe weather and exceeded capacity by extreme events. These need very different resilience measures to be put in place to those encountered during the business as usual failures. The ability to install temporary replacement infrastructure to repair the damage as quickly as possible and to provide additional, sometimes permanent, extra capacity. The network's still there, it hasn't gone away, but additional ways to access it need to be provided. And that's just in that very small time frame. That's not something we as users are going to say we want all the time. Bringing in extra capacity is always a key challenge. It's particularly true when the two in extremist situations, damage and excess traffic, coincide. The report looks in depth at two particular case studies where a planned large event, which needed more capacity, was exacerbated by an unexpected major event. It looks at the bombings at the Boston Marathon and a stage collapse during the Pucker Pop Music Festival. Rare events, but actually something we planned for and something we were expected to be ready for. So the conclusions, what does all of it tell us? Will COTS technology and commercial bearers do the job? Most of the time, yes, in a way that it couldn't in the past, when PSRCP led to Airwave. During business as usual, pretty much yes, but not always. And those in extremist situations when everything is going wrong and things are bound to fail, when the communications aren't perfect, what are we left with? What do we really need? Smartphones, Google Glass, etc. are nice to have. They impress our new recruits, that's for certain. But what do we need that? All those bells and whistles when we're just down to a basic situation. The full report, as I said, by the end of the month, is to give more of the background for you to be able to formulate your own answers to the questions, the science, the context, the history, the pitfalls of choosing one option over another, help you to make informed decisions. It's intended to provide the information you need to make those decisions on ESN because it's coming in 2016. But we've got to look towards 2020 when we all start to use it properly. More importantly, it'll also explain how the answers that you make now may just change over time. The important thing is that we don't sacrifice the functionality we really need by focusing too much on the platform that will provide it. The last slide, I am not Jenny Cole, but those are our details if you do need any further information. Thanks very much, everybody.